But at that time, the Republicans that were in charge of the state took it off the ballot by raising the minimum wage legislatively, and that took it off the ballot. So fast forward all these years to a few months ago, the Democrats had filed a suit. It went to the state, ended up at the state Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, oh, that was unconstitutional what the legislature did. We're going to make this law. And that's what, and that goes into effect next month, where the tip minimum wage starts gradually going up to parity, which will basically end tipping in Michigan, right at the time when President Trump's going to stop taxing tips. How about that for timing? So anyway, I wanted to get there because we've got to fight. The Republicans are trying to fight this thing, and we're very lucky to have John McNamara here. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant Association. He's going to tell us what's going on. And John, come on up here. I want to know, how is this going to affect the restaurant business along with everything else they've got to go through? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. So this is a critically important issue. So want to quickly start by explaining what the tip credit is and how it works, because it is a massively misunderstood system. So 43 states operate with a tip credit. It's been about over 20 years since a state got rid of it. But in Michigan, as of January 1, when minimum wage went up, so the minimum wage in Michigan, where's my cheat sheet? The minimum wage in Michigan right now is $10.56 an hour. The tipped wage is 38% of that, so it's $4.01 an hour. Now, let's say, plus tips. Let's say maybe it's a night like tonight, it's cold, it's windy, people are like, we're ordering pizza, we're staying, we're gonna cook at home, and no one comes into the restaurant. The business owner has to make the difference up to ensure that that employee is at minimum wage. Because obviously, well, it's illegal, you can't pay people less than minimum wage. That's against every federal and state labor law in the country. This is a system that works, again, it works in 43 states. The group that Matt mentioned, it's a group called One Fair Wage. They've been in Michigan for about 10 years. They've spent about $10 million. Of that $10 million, $150 came from one Michigan resident. Other than that, every single penny has come from out-of-state interest groups, mostly New York, California, and Massachusetts. They tried to go on the ballot in Massachusetts in 2024, and they lost 2-1. And the incredibly liberal governor, Maura Healey of Massachusetts, said, I was a server in college and law school. I think the system works how it works, and we should keep it that way. So as Matt mentioned, this was 6 years of legal battles. Started in 2020 when the lawsuit was filed, because what the legislature did in 2018 was adopted the ballot initiative, and then later in the same legislative session amended the ballot initiative. Legislatures amend laws every single day. It's what legislatures do. I was on legislative staff for about 10 years, and again, it happens all the time. However, after 6 years of legal battles, the Michigan Court of Claims said in July of 22, adopted amendment is unconstitutional. The 2018 law goes into effect in 3 weeks. Injunctions were filed. In December of 22, the Michigan Court of Claims heard the case, Michigan Court of Appeals heard the case, and then in July of 2023, the Michigan Court of Appeals said unanimously, adopted amendment is constitutional. It was 2 judges appointed by former Governor Engler, 1 judge appointed by former Governor Granholm. The Granholm appointee said, I don't like it, I think it's shady, I think it's underhanded, but as a jurist, my opinion is that is constitutional. We felt pretty good about that, but then the Michigan Supreme Court announced they were going to hear the case, and we knew at that point we were toast. And then July 31st of last year, the Michigan Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that adopted amendment is unconstitutional, and a very, very much amended version of the 2018 law would go into effect February 21st of this year. So last session, we tried very, very hard to get a bill. We did about 25 town halls all over the state, as far south as Taylor, as far north as Marquette, just to educate people on what this would mean and what we know. So what we know is that if it goes into effect unamended, about 1 in 5 full-service restaurants will close their doors for good. So that's about 20% of the restaurants in the state of Michigan. We know that 40 to 60,000 people will lose their jobs. Almost all of those are tipped employees. We know that 85% of tipped employees in Michigan right now have told the legislature, leave it the way it is. We like it just the way it is. Of those 79% of that 84% have said, if we lose the tip credit, I'll lose my job and we'll probably have to go do something else. And last but not least, of the restaurants that make it, 94% said initially they will raise prices 25% or more because it's the only way they can make it work. This is an industry that on your best day, your margin is 5%. And that's everyone does everything just about right. And that means the teenage kid who you're giving their first job puts 1 handful of French fries on every single plate instead of 2. It means that no one drops this, nothing gets messed up in the kitchen. So obviously, the restaurant industry is looking at the edge of a cliff right now and begging for help. Now, luckily today, the Michigan House of Representatives, in a bipartisan manner, passed House Bill 4001 and 4002. House Bill 4001 protects the tip credit at 38% of Michigan's minimum wage, which is exactly where it is now, and raises the minimum wage in a way that is responsible. And I understand there's people in this room who are going to say Michigan should never raise the minimum wage. The minimum wage is going up either way, but it can go up in a way that's dictated by the Michigan Supreme Court, or it can go up in a way that is dictated by the legislature. And one of the biggest differences there is that in the bill as passed today, the minimum wage after 2030, where the minimum wage would get to $15 an hour, which would put the tip credit at 501, I believe, if I did that math right. Increases at that would be tied to a 5-year average of the Midwest CPI. If the Supreme Court gets their way, increases would go up based upon just CPI in general. So you would have East and West Coast economic data factoring in increases in Michigan's minimum wage. The 2 most recent cities to get rid of their tip credit were the city of Chicago, which did it about a year ago, and Washington, D.C., which did it longer than a year ago. Last Tuesday, a bunch of servers went to the Washington, D.C. City Council and said, you told us this wasn't going to hurt us. You told us we'd be fine. D.C. has lost over 1,000 jobs. They are losing a restaurant a week in D.C. because of this. And the only sector that's grown is the quick service sector. So think Qdoba, think Panda Express. Absolutely nothing wrong with those places. I'm a big fan of a plate double kung pao with fried rice. However, it's not hospitality. You're not going there to be served and enjoy the experience of being served by a professional server and enjoy the experience. And Chicago the Chicago City Council, they're expecting servers there to come to them and say, you told us we'd be fine, we're not. Because tipping goes down when people know that they're making $15 an hour. Portland, Maine was another city that enacted it and has undone it. About 70% of Michigan residents have said, just listen to the servers. We had 2 different rallies at the Capitol. We had one last September where we had about 700 people in attendance, and then we had one in December where we had about 600 people in attendance to try to make this change. I was thrilled to see that this was a bipartisan vote today in the House. There were 6 Democrats who joined all but 1 Republican in voting yes to get this through. However, today was the easy part. And I can see Senator Runstead's here. Do you think the Senate Democrats are ready and willing to make this change?
Not at all.
Unfortunately, I tend to agree. So thrilled the bill today passed. But today was the easy part and today was not easy. The hard part is going to be the Michigan Senate, and then the other hard part is going to be securing a signature from Governor Whitmer, because there's nothing to stop. Let's say we thread the needle and catch lightning in a bottle. There is absolutely nothing that would prevent one fair wage from doing a referendum. So going out and getting more signatures, which would pause this law and then would essentially give the 2018 law 2 years to go into effect. So at that point, the tip credit would go to about 60% of the minimum wage, and at that point, the minimum wage would go to almost $15 an hour very quickly. So scary times, but going to really hope that common sense prevails in Lansing, which doesn't happen nearly enough. I almost said that without laughing. But that's sort of where we are on that front. So if let's say if nothing happens, then by 2030 in Michigan, the minimum wage will be $15 an hour, and we will not have a tipped wage. So servers will make $15 an hour plus tips, and then on top of that as well, there just wouldn't be a tipped wage. The other part of this is a massive change in how Michigan's earned sick time law works. And as scary as the tip credit is, loss of the tip credit, increased minimum wage is for my members and for restaurateurs, the earned sick time law is scary because it applies to every single business in the state of Michigan. And it doesn't matter if you already have a system that works for you and your employees. This would supersede that. And what it says is that for every hour worked, and this is any employee, so the 16-year-old kid scooping ice cream for the summer will be accrue paid sick time, and the business owner will be forced to find a way to administer that. So it's 1 hour accrued for every 30 hours worked. It says in there you can just not go to work for 3 days in a row and show up on the fourth day and tell your boss, oh, I was sick. They can't ask for a doctor's note. They cannot, there can be absolutely no recourse on that. If you're sick for a fourth day, the employer can ask for a doctor's note. They have to pay for it and pay the employee for their time to get it. And if someone takes paid sick time and is dismissed within 90 days of taking that time, they have a private right to action, and the onus is on the business owner to prove that they were not fired for taking paid sick time. This started out at employers of 50 or less, so 50 or less would have been exempt. The Michigan Supreme Court, when they ruled in July, changed 50 to employers of 1 or more. So this is literally every single business, and as the Michigan Supreme Court is of the opinion, includes independent contractors as well. I don't understand if you're an independent contractor, take time off when you want to take, like, who are you going to ask time off for, yourself? But I mean, think of every single Uber driver in the state of Michigan. Think of every single person doing DoorDash or Uber Eats. They're independent contractors, and technically, if they're included in that, Uber would have to find a way to pay them if they took paid sick time. So there's a separate bill, House Bill 4002, that would seek to change that as well, and makes some common sense changes. I think myself and everyone in this room would love to see more, but we have 29 calendar days, which means we probably have 9 to 12 legislative session days to get this through a incredibly progressive Senate and signed by a pretty progressive governor, who right now seems to be in a very moderate mood, but that can change quickly. Yes. So that is sort of in a nutshell what is going on right now. So there's one that is incredibly aligned and very focused on Michigan's hospitality industry. Then another one that literally applies to every single business in the state of Michigan. There is hope. I know that Speaker Hall had said, as soon as it passed the House, he's going to reach out and try to work with the Senate to try to carve out some type of deal that's palatable. I can tell you for certain the bill that passed today will not, if we get a bill to the governor's desk, it won't be this bill, that we're going to need amendments. I've been told that the Senate Democrats are eager to try to solve this problem. I'm choosing to be positive and choosing to believe that. I hope it's true, because if not, this will be worse than COVID for Michigan's hospitality industry. And part of that is because you can't put this toothpaste back in the tube. Once you get people to a certain point, you really can't take it away. So every single restaurateur in the state is pretty terrified, as they should be right now. Absolutely.
I want to know, why would a Democrat think this is good? How is it going to benefit a Democrat? Because they're the ones passing it or want it.
So I would say they did. One Fair Wage, based out of California, is a very, very progressive group. So they're the ones who put it on the ballot. But additionally, a Democrat last session sponsored the bill to try to fix this, and unfortunately, despite promising myself and a whole lot of people, former Speaker Tate just refused to put it up for a vote. For One Fair Wage, this is philosophical. They just believe this. In every city and municipality every municipality and state they tried last year, they lost every single one. They were about 0 for 24 last year in trying to get this done. So I'm hoping they eventually run out of money and stop trying to do this. But this has been a fight in Michigan since 2014. So we're coming up on 10 years of battling this.
Terrible. Thank you.
One quick question. You mentioned.
Hold on, Jim.
Has Jim ever needed a microphone?
Do you want to be on the recording here?
Yes. All right. So you said 1 hour of vacation time or sick time for every 30 hours worked.
Correct.
I have 6 employees that are commission only. I don't keep track of any time that they work. I pay them a commission based on their performance.
You would have to start keeping track of time.
Impossible.
Anybody else?
No, and it's, again, as scary as the one section, as scary as the tip credit is, it's earned sick time is in some ways scarier because, again, it's every single business, regardless of size. Again, and the fact that we would give minors paid sick leave, and I also want to point out that they differentiate between paid sick leave and vacation time. So you couldn't give people just a bucket of leave time. You would have to have 2 separate buckets between personal time, paid time off, and then sick time. There are 3 distinctions. And there are a lot of places who just say at the beginning of every single year, okay, you get X number of paid time off per year, it's in your bank already. You are not allowed to front load under this change. You have to do the 1 hour for every 30 hours worked. And this would supersede any policy that you already have. And if Michigan were ever to pass something like a paid family leave law, which they tried to do last year, this would be in addition to any other benefits that are there. It would not replace anything.
So if you're on commission, it's not like 40 hours, you're 70 or 80 hours.
Can you repeat that question, John?
Yeah, so if you're on commission, it's not 40 hours, it's 70 or 80 hours.
Right, so is the owner then obligated to pay that sick leave based off of the commission hours?
If anybody wants to ask a question, come over here, I got a microphone.
The law is very clear. It says for every 30 hours you work, you get 1 hour of paid time. So if you work 60 hours in a week, that would be 2 hours of paid leave that the business owner would be, 1, required to track and administer, and then 2, be required to pay out. The good thing is that it was made clear that, and by the way, the bank on that is unlimited. So you can bank as many hours as you would like to. Now, if you were to leave that job, the business owner is not required to pay that out. So it would end. I mean, if you left that job, those hours would stay there, and it wouldn't transfer to your new employer, or they would not have to pay them out.
John, we got a question over here. What's your question?
Can business owners now change the way they interview for a new employee, and can they look back on their past and ask them why if they left their last job, was it due to calling in? Can the business owner change the way they interview and hire?
You can, but I mean, if you get a savvy enough person there who knows what to look for, I'm willing to bet they would have standing for a lawsuit.
Correct.
You could just come up here. Yeah, come on. You got a question?
Yeah. Is anybody mobilizing, like people who plow snow and do lawns and things like that? Is there anybody did I do something wrong?
No, go ahead. Keep.
Is there anybody that's mobilizing the people?
Yeah, so we are part of a much larger coalition with groups like the Michigan Chamber, the Small Business Association of Michigan, National Federation of Independent Business Owners, that are bringing business owners of all types to Lansing to meet with their elected officials and talk about how terrible this is. Again, we did 25 town halls across the state with servers, elected officials were at every single one of them. The vast majority were bipartisan. Now, for example, Ann Arbor wasn't, because Washtenaw County just doesn't elect Republicans. But what's been interesting is that last year, when Democrats were in majority, they were super excited to fix this problem and address it. And then today, there were six Democrats who sort of had the backbone, but there were 35 or 40 last session, and literally the bill is word for word the exact same. All we did was change the name of the sponsor, and the bill number changed. But it went from Nate Shannon to John Roth, who's a state rep from Interlochen area. And then there were people today of like, well, I was with you last year, but right now we're gonna have to wait and see what the Senate does.
John, I think that, just to clarify that question that was asked, what can we in the grassroots do to fight this thing and help you?
So, I mean, I would say it's out of the House. So the House is no longer part of the equation. And I know Rep. Harris is on his way here, and Rep. Harris and Rep. Steele and multiple other Republicans have been beyond helpful in our fight on this. I'm sure everyone sort of saw what happened at the end of last year when it was clear that Speaker Tate was not going to call this for a vote. The Republicans literally walked out and took one Democrat with them and essentially ended lame duck. And while it was frustrating that our issue wasn't dealt with, they also stopped a lot of really, really bad stuff from going through. So any relationship you have with a member of the Michigan Senate, Republican or Democrat, I would just urge them. Businesses need quick action, because I have people who are February 22nd have the list of people they don't want to, but have the list of people they're gonna fire, because it's the only way that they can make this happen. And what you will see at the vast majority of restaurants is you're gonna walk in, you're gonna order on an iPad. If they're not busy, maybe they bring the food to your table. But if not, they're gonna yell out a number, you're gonna go get it. So, I mean, good luck getting a refill on the Coke. Good luck getting a second beer or that 35th Ranch, because we're in the Midwest. It will just take away the service side of this industry.
John, we have a question over here.
I can see where you're coming from as far as the sick time and annual time. I'm a state employee, retired from Clinton Valley in Minden Corrections, and people would accumulate their state time, their sick time, and whatever. And I used to do it. My annual time, I would take Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. My sick time, if I accrued it and I retired, I got half of that on my retirement. So this is coming way back from many, many years ago, because I used to get it.
Yeah.
But I can see where it's not a benefit. It's going to really hurt, because a lot of people abuse that. And if you go on workman's comp, you still get your sick time. It
Right.
does not. You don't use it, you still get it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is going to be bad for a lot of people that already have paid sick time because it's going to force most people to rewrite their handbook and change the structure. And I give the example of, I can't imagine being a teacher. It's a near impossible job. I'm willing to bet the day after Halloween is one of the hardest days in the classroom. How many teachers are going to be like, you know what? I think we're all going to be sick the day after Halloween, and there's nothing the district will be able to do. They'll be like, well, you have the time, and there's nothing, there's just zero accountability and zero predictability. And when we did one of the town halls in Petoskey in early September, the businesses in Petoskey said, we just won't open 4th of July because half the staff won't show up. We're not going to punish the good, our dedicated employees that show up. And we're not going to put our customers through that either because they're not going to have a good experience with a full restaurant. But up north, when your season is really Memorial Day to Labor Day, you need every penny. You can only skip so many days before it just doesn't make sense. But the businesses all agreed, yeah, we just won't open 4th of July.
Great. We have, come on, Braden, come on up. You know the routine here. You've been here before.
So if you increase the wage, the minimum wage to $15, $20, $30 an hour, whatever it is in Oregon or California, how does that affect, or what do the studies show as the effect on people who make higher wage, who are skilled or have, degrees, or who are making $30 an hour, and they see someone right out of high school making $20 an hour? What kind of a depression does that put on that kind of a job market?
So it's a great question. Interesting enough, what you see is, and we joke that the hospitality industry is the industry of first jobs and second chances. And what you're going to see is if they have to pay $20 an hour, and right now California did pass a law that says fast food employees do have to pay $20 an hour. It's not going well. McDonald's is paying franchisees, giving them a stipend to stay open right now in the state of California because they're like, we can't do it. But what you see is they'd rather hire someone who's 22, 23 and pay them a little bit more than hire the kid they're going to have to train at $20 an hour at 15 years old because there's a lot of education that goes on in the hospitality industry and in that first job in general. You learn to show up on time. You learn to work as a team. You got to wear a uniform. This is, you learn how processes work. And that's one of the things we keep stressing is that there's so much education that goes on in that first job. But those first jobs aren't going to be there if they have to start people out at $20, $22, $23 an hour. And again, all we keep saying is just listen to the employees. The employees have said, we don't want this. We didn't ask for this. There were 2 hearings of the first one was about 3 hours. The second one was 2 hours. The 3 people who showed up in opposition to the bill, one was the AFL-CIO who said on the record, well, we don't represent restaurant employees, but boy, would we like to. You had One Fair Wage, the group doing this, and then you had the Michigan League for Public Policy. So you had 3 lobbyists come and testify in opposition. Other than that, every single person was a business owner or an employee saying, please, please, please don't take away my livelihood. We had a mom from Jackson who said, I'm a mom of 4. I'm a stay-at-home mom because of the flexibility this industry provides me, and I make more than enough money to pay my bills, buy the house, make the car payment, and support my family because of tips. So please don't take it away.
John McNamara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.